So hopefully this is all relatively straightforward stuff you've seen before. I'm now going to start getting into functions themselves. So we're going to start talking about text functions. So these are the functions that you use if you're dealing with, sometimes programmers will call these strings. It's anything that's in a text format. You can even include numbers and dates if those are being looked at as text. So it's just how they're being displayed and stored. So it can be basically anything. One of the functions is concatenate. Concatenate allows you to take cells and text fields and combine them together. And there's also a shorthand way of doing it, and that's the ampersand. If you do just an ampersand, you can combine whatever text you want. And I'll show you examples. And just I'm just going to go through the text and I'll show you some examples of all of these. Left, mid, and right. They sort of do what they sound like. Left takes the left X number of characters. Mid gives you a starting point, and then you count however many characters and it gives you that chunk. And right takes the rightmost set of characters. So it allows you to take a field and by number values break it apart into smaller pieces. You can also figure out the length of a string within the cell. You can change the case from lower to upper to proper case. You can also replace and substitute within a string. You can say, I want it to replace this block and replace it with something else. You can get unwanted spaces from the back or from the front. And then you can convert a text to a number. If you need to do math on it, then you need to do that. Let me go actually open up Excel. And I built in some examples here. So the first, I've got just a text field up top. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. And then I concatenate. I use the concatenate function to combine the, and then a space, and then quick. This is what I have built in, and then I put an equal in front of it, and it gives us the quick. So that's exactly what it looks like. So just whatever you put in there, you can have a large number of different arguments. And if you go in and you click on the FX button, you can see that it tells you how many arguments you have. And if you go here, go to the bottom one, it lets you add more arguments and more arguments and more arguments.
If I want to, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If I want to do, for example, this is what you typed in, and then the space and the quick, and then concatenate the whole thing. But if you were gonna, let's say, 2 cells, can you put, instead of the, you can put cell B2,
Yeah.
and it would do the same effect?
See, if I click A5, A6, it says the quick concatenate.
Well, there's no
A5
space.
says concatenate.
Okay.
That's one of the dangers with concatenate is you need to make sure you build in your spaces.
Oh, okay. Because that's a common mistake one can do, forget the spaces.
Yes. But you can see down here it shows you what it's going to end up being.
Right.
And it shows you there as well. And up to 255 different strings combined together. So that's not the number of letters, that's the number of separate arguments you can have. And of course you can scroll down and there's a large ability there.
You can write a book out of this.
Just about. So the exact same thing being done with just the ampersand, but this time instead of putting a space in there, I put the space and quick, just to demonstrate how you can go through, and if you use logic you don't have to add a space as a separate field. So when you have the equals sign in front of it, it becomes the and quick. And I could actually do that right here. I could just go through and hit equals, and it just turned from being text to actually being a function and a formula being done. So then I've got our left, mid, and right examples. So left, if I take the leftmost 9 characters, it gives me the quick. The middle character starting at position 11 for 5, give me brown. If I take the 4 rightmost characters, it gives me dog. So it allows you to parse it out. The issue is knowing if it's variable lengths. Sometimes you'll have to use other functions to help figure out where everything is. But it gives you the ability.
How do you do the middle one? Mid.
Mid.
Then A1 is the cell.
A1's where you're looking.
And
11's the starting point. So 11 characters in
okay.
is the B in brown
Okay.
for 5 spaces.
Okay.
And you can also get the length. So the quick brown fox jumped over lazy dog is 45 characters long. In lowercase. And then replace does the same basic thing as mid. You have to give it where you're looking, your starting point, for how long, but then you get to say what you're putting in. It doesn't have to be the same length of what you're replacing. So you can go through and make these edits if you need to. A similar one to replace is, let's just look at substitute. So I'm going to just say equal, start typing. I know it's called substitute. If I double click here, then it starts showing me substitute text, old text, new text. So the text is going to be A1. I can just click on it and it lets me do it. Then I do comma, gives me the next argument. Old text, I want brown.
Also, this time you don't have to specify the character.
You don't have to give a location.
You just gotta. Okay. But you can also do the location or no?
No, replace this location, substitute, it finds that word.
Word, okay.
And then new text, I want to say green. So it's an ill dog, or an ill fox, I guess. Then hit enter, and the quick brown fox jumped over lazy dog. That didn't work. Why didn't it work?
Because B was not there, the uppercase.
Right. So it's case sensitive.
You can add more than one cell in, so if I wanted to add like A2, A3, A4, I can add more than one cell and I can only do it for replace or substitute in one cell.
You can nest functions, and I'll talk about that a little bit
Okay.
later. If you want to do more than one cell, you would have to combine those cells using concatenate or the ampersand to combine the text, and then you can do the edits. Okay, so there's the change. Of course, I misspelled green just to make things more interesting. But you could also, it doesn't really matter what you're replacing, you can replace the letter O with green. And the quick green for green jumped over the green verb. Okay, so you need to be really careful if you're using substitute, because if you do something like replace O, you're going to end up with some really weird stuff. But what you can do is you can say, well, I only want to replace the first instance of O. And this is where I was talking about optional parameters. Instance number is optional. You can say, I only want to change the first instance of O to green. So it's now the quick green fox jumped over the lazy. So it only replaced the first O. So the other function I talked about, trim and value, they're basically done the same way. I didn't bother doing an example for them because they're fairly straightforward.